Hey there, thanks for being here. It's the first week of April, and that means it's time for the monthly Cape Coral Real Estate Market Report update. I do one of these reports every single month on the Cape Coral real estate market. I basically just go over the stats that the market put up within the last month. I'll give you some breakdowns by different property categories like single-family homes, golf access homes, condos, things like that. I'll get into some vacant land as well, and then I'll give you some analysis on it as well as some expert opinion on what to do if maybe you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market or if you're selling a property in the Cape Coral real estate market. Sound good? By the way, if you don't know who I am, my name is Dustin Guthrie. I'm a near 20-year real estate broker here in Cape Coral in Southwest Florida. I do one of these videos every single month, but these are in addition to the weekly videos that I put out with just good informational topics on Southwest Florida and Cape Coral in general. If you're interested in Southwest Florida, maybe you're moving to Cape Coral or moving to Fort Myers, moving to Punta Gorda, wherever here in Southwest Florida. If you're interested in this area, reach over and hit that subscribe button. I think you'll get a lot out of being subscribed to this channel. I try to create a lot of value and give you a lot of good information with these weekly videos, just in the hopes that when it does come time that you do need a realtor here in Southwest Florida, if you're buying or selling a property, whether it's residential, commercial, vacant land, whatever, maybe you'll remember these videos and think of me. My contact information is down there in the description of the video, and you can call, text, or email me anytime. And there's also a link down there. You can schedule a one-on-one Zoom meeting with me in the future if you're not here in town. So make use of that. And without further ado, let's get right into this report. If you're familiar with these reports, you know that I always like to start off by, just for fun, telling you what the lowest price property that sold in Cape Coral this past month and the highest price property. And this month, I'm actually going to tell you the lowest condo sale and lowest single family home, and then I'll do the highest condo sale and the highest single family home that sold in the entire city of Cape Coral for the month of March. So all of these facts and figures that I'm going over happened in March. So let's get right into it, and let's start with the lowest price sales that happened in the month of March. All right, so let's jump right into it. This is the lowest condo sale that we had in the entire month of March for the city of Cape Coral. It was over here on 824 Southeast 16th Place. It's in the Sandy Rose Condo Complex. This is a little 2-bedroom, 2-bath, just over 1,000 square feet. So a smaller 2-bedroom unit built in 1979. It's in a 55 and older community. Typically those 55 and older communities are a little softer on pricing because we have just a slightly fewer number of buyers for these sorts of properties. So this one looked like it needed a little bit of work in there, but it's in a great location down there in the southeast. It was listed at $159,900, so listed at $160,000 and sold for $140,000. And they've been trying to sell this property for a while, almost 2 years, but it looks like they got it done at $140,000. And congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on that lovely condo down in the southeast. I'm sure there's a little bit of work to be done there, but I'm sure it'll look really nice when everybody gets finished with it. Let's talk about the lowest single-family home that sold in the month of March for the entire city of Cape Coral. And at the risk of sounding self-serving, I'm happy to report that this one was my listing. I sold the lowest price single-family home in the entire city of Cape Coral last month, and it was actually a foreclosure. It was a reverse mortgage foreclosure, but this one over at 4216 Southeast First Court sold in the month of March. It was back in mid-March on the 14th is when we sold that one. It was listed at $175,000. This home needed a complete gut job in it. It was the roof looked like Swiss cheese from the hurricane. There was mold on the inside. It needed everything to be ripped down to the studs and redone. And we had this listed at $175,000, which, believe it or not, that was the lowest list price home in all of Cape Coral when we listed it. And we ended up with multiple offers on this. And an investor client of mine ended up buying this property for over list price. They right at $200,000 cash. It needed to be cash on this one. This one wasn't going to qualify for a mortgage. So Jay, if you're watching this, congratulations. I can't wait to see what you end up doing with this property. I know Jay's been in there ripping drywall out already, flooring and all that kind of stuff, and he's going to completely redo this house, and it's going to be transformed. I'll actually do a video on that to show you that transformation when he gets done with it, because we're going to put it right back on the market. But congratulations to Jay on getting that property in the lowest priced home in the entire city of Cape Coral last month at $200,000. All right, let's get into the highest priced properties for the month of March. All right, I'm going to start off with the highest condo sale in the month of March for the entire city of Cape Coral, and this one's no surprise. These condos have been selling for over $1 million for quite a while now, and it's this one over at 6081 Silver King Boulevard, Unit 503. That's over in Tarpon Landings in the Tarpon Point Marina. Oh, it's over there by the Westin in the Southwest Cape, if you're not familiar with that area, but this community is just absolutely stunning. These units are really, really large. This was a 3-bedroom with a den, 4-bathroom, 3.5 bathroom actually, and just under 3,000 square feet. So as far as condos go, this is a pretty large condo, and they're very luxurious to say the least. But this one was sold turnkey. Was listed at 1.299, and sold on the 8th of March for 1.25. So $1.25 million for this beautiful Tarpon Point Marina high-rise unit, and just an absolutely gorgeous condo. So congratulations to the buyers and the sellers and their agents for that high condo sale for the month of March at $1.25 million. All right, let's talk about the highest single-family home. You know, since I've been doing these, I've been doing this about 6-7 months now, and since I've been doing these, we haven't had a month where we didn't have at least one sale over $3 million. Until March. This is the first month that we didn't have a $3+ million single-family home sale in Cape Coral, and but this one was over in Cape Harbor. It's a beautiful community down there again in the Southwest, if you're not familiar with Cape Harbor. And this one was listed at 2.675. It sold for 2.55. Beautiful 3-bedroom plus a den, 3 full bath. It was built in 2012, and just over 3,100 square feet of living area. Again, right there on Gulf Access Canal. Had a nice dock package on it, certainly a nice pool package, and congratulations to the buyers and the sellers on this beautiful home. I absolutely love Cape Harbor. I've had the privilege to sell a fair number of homes in there, and it's just an absolutely gorgeous community. So if you ever get a chance to visit, go down there and have a drink or have lunch or dinner there in Cape Harbor, because it's a beautiful spot right there on the marina. So congratulations again to the buyers and sellers and their agents on that high sale in Cape Coral at $2.55 million. All right, so let's get into the stats. I always like to start off with the broad stats of the Cape Coral real estate market. So I'm going to start off, we're talking about residential properties to start with. So basically anything on the water, off the water, single family home, condo, basically anything that's livable. We're not talking about multifamily, so we're leaving duplexes and triplexes and apartments out of it. But this is basically single-family homes and condos and townhomes all put together, and we'll start with these really broad stats, and then I'll break things down by different categories like condos, Gulf access properties, single-family homes, pool homes, things like that. So let's get right into this with the broad stats of the market last month. All right, so the overall residential Cape Coral real estate market stats. Let's start off with the total number of sales that we had in the entire city of Cape Coral for the month of March. Hey, we really bounced back. We had some lows in January and February, and we've really bounced back in March. It's really nice to see. But we had 588 residential sales in the month of March. And believe it or not, that ties March of 2023. So we had the exact same number of sales, if you look at this graph, as we did in March of 2023, and as you can definitely see from the last few months, we definitely bounced up quite a bit higher than January and February. January, if you've watched my previous monthly market report videos, January was basically the slowest we've been since the 2008 financial crisis, and you had to go all the way back to 1995 actually to find a slower real estate market than what we were experiencing in January. But January is definitely just in a normal year. A little bit slower, just because most people are not shopping for real estate in November and December with the holidays. But really, with the high interest rates and things like that, it put even more of a dampener on January. So it's really good to see we stepped up a little bit in January and then really hit our stride here coming into March. In terms of the total median price on these properties, and again, I'm talking about all different types of single-family homes plus condos, on water, off water, everything. We're at $390,000. We've been pretty flat, really, for the last really 18 months. About, if you look at this graph, this is a 2-year graph, and we're $390,000 in the month of March in 2024. If you go back 12 months to March of 23, we were at $398. So we're just down about 2% across the board. The high point was really, around April of 2022, and we're definitely down since then. We're down about 5 or 6% from the high mark there. In fact, in March of April 2022, we were at 405, so we're down just under 4% from that mark. But again, we're talking about all different types of properties. Really, statistically speaking, it's not a big significant difference. We've kind of waved up and down, as you can kind of tell from this graph. So we've really stayed flat over the course of the last 2 years, and we're going to have some inventory issues coming up, and I'll get into that later in the video, so make sure you watch down to the end, because that's the main concerning situation right now with our Cape Coral real estate market, is the inventory numbers have been increasing. So we'll talk about that in a little bit, but overall the stats are looking pretty good. 588 sales at a median price of $390,000. So of those 588 total sales, 518 of them were single-family homes. So we're still consistently seeing single-family homes are obviously the absolute majority of our market compared to condos. We really don't see as many condo sales here in the city of Cape Coral. Single-family homes are sort of bread and butter. So out of those 588, 518 were single-family homes, and 70 were condos. And we're going to talk about condos here in a little bit as well, and that's actually a huge jump from the number of condo sales that we saw in the first couple of months of the year. So a little bit better news as far as condos go. If you're a condo owner looking to sell a property, you're maybe going to feel a little bit better after this video than you have in the previous couple of ones. So definitely stick around to the end of that. But overall, the market's looking pretty good, at least comparatively, at 588 total sales and a median price of $390,000. So let's start breaking some of these down by different property categories. I'm going to start off with non-Gulf access single-family homes. So basically, that includes everything that's not on a Gulf access canal or the river frontage or anything like that. So we're basically talking off-water homes and maybe homes that are on a freshwater canal. So let's get right into that. All right, so non-Gulf access single-family homes. What do we got? Well, we've got 422 total sales are in this property category. So again, makes up the absolute majority of our market. Out of those 588 total sales, 422 of them were non-Gulf access single-family homes. And if you look at this chart over the last 12 months, we've kind of bounced around, really. Again, we had a low point in January, a 12-month low in January, but we've kind of dipped down a little bit, come back up. You've sort of seen somewhat of a trend of the downward trajectory, at least in the number of sales in the last 12 months. That's sort of to be expected. A lot of the buyers that buy this particular category of property are doing so with mortgages, and as those interest rates have risen over the course of the last 12, 18 months or so, you're seeing fewer buyers out there. The buyers are a little bit dropping off and sitting on the sidelines just because of affordability issues with those higher mortgage payments due to the interest rates. So good to see them pop back up in the month of March at 422. The median price for those, and look at this graph. This is actually a 3-year graph, so I can show you a little bit of a larger spread right here. But our median price for this property category was $377,500. Again, we're pretty flat, especially at least over the last 12 months. You can kind of see where we peaked out there in around this time, spring of 2022, where we peaked out at 380. So we've really been generally around that 380 mark ever since spring of 2022. We were right at 380,000 in March of 2023. So we're only down $2,500 in this property category, at least median price wise. If I want to break this down a little bit by some subcategories here, if you look at non-pool homes, so this would be maybe more considered a starter home or something like that. It's basically a single family home that's not on the water without a pool. Median price for those was $333,500. If you talk about pool homes, you know what the average pool home costs in the city of Cape Coral. That was at $445,000, and both of those have been remarkably steady for the last 12 or 18 months or so. And new homes, I want to mention new homes. The average or median price for brand new construction property was $375,000, and brand new construction properties have made up a remarkable segment of the number of sales of this property category month over month, at least since I've been covering this in the last 6 or so months. And this month was no exception. March, we had 157 brand new homes that sold. And when I say brand new, I'm talking about 2023 or 2024 built homes. So out of those 422 total sales, 157 of them were brand new construction property, and that's about 37% of the market. So that's versus quote unquote a normal market, that's a fairly high number. A lot of the buyers out there, since these builders are able to price these things relatively competitively, and they're also able to offer some really nice financing incentives. We just closed on one with a couple last week, actually, that the builder gave them $15,000 and bought their rate down to 4.99%. So when builders are doing that, if you have a property that you're selling, it's a resale property, maybe it was built in the mid-2000s, and you're trying to compete with that, it becomes a little bit harder to compete with that, and that's why you're seeing sort of a high segment of the market going to these new construction homes and following these financing incentives that these builders are offering. So again, 37% of the market was brand new construction homes, but we had 422 of this category sell last month, and 377.5 was the median. All right, everybody's favorite category. Let's talk about Gulf access single-family homes. So we're basically talking about anything that's either on the river or on a saltwater canal with access to the Gulf of Mexico. So I know a lot of the folks down here, at least that are down here right now in the spring, maybe they're visiting for the winter and the spring season, are very interested in this segment of the market. And so let's get right into it. There were 96 total single-family Gulf access homes that sold in the month of March. Again, we're a big step up from the first few months. Really since December, we've been kind of creeping up month over month, but we had a big jump from February to January. In February, we had 73 homes that sold, and so we're up about 23 from there, 96 total sales. The median price for Gulf access homes in Cape Coral, $790,000. And again, if you look at this graph, we've bounced around a little bit. That's a little bit more because it's a smaller sample size. We don't have as many properties selling. Those median prices can kind of fluctuate month over month. So we've been pretty flat, really, again, since the high point, which was right around January of 2022. Median price back in January of 2022 was $900,000 for these Gulf access homes. So we're down 110 from that point, and we're down about only 10,000 from a year ago. March of 2023, we were at 800,000. But this 3-year chart kind of tells the story there. We had that big climb coming into first part of January or first part of 2022, where we hit that peak at 900,000, and then we've bounced around a little bit, but we've kind of softened, and we've come back up over the course of the last couple of months. February, the median price was $852,500, so we're down a little bit from that. The overall low point was way back in July of last year at $715,000. But again, the sample size is smaller, so we're bouncing around a little bit more considerably. If you want to break these down by segments, so the Gulf access property, there are no Gulf access properties in the Northeast, so we'll leave that on the side for now. But Northwest, Southwest, Southeast, when it comes to Gulf access properties, at least over the course of 4 months, just to get enough of a sample size to make these numbers make sense. The 4-month median price for the Northwest was $885,000. The Southwest properties, $855,000, and the Southeast properties, $649,000 were the median prices there. And I really think I should explain that a little bit. The Northwest, the majority of the homes in the Northwest are brand new properties. Most of these Gulf access sales, I think there's only been 6 in the last 4 months that were not newer than 2015 built homes. So you've got newer properties in the Northwest. I don't necessarily think that the Northwest is more expensive than the other areas, but more of the homes that are selling are newer construction properties. So that's why you're seeing that $885,000, which is a high point in terms of the median price for the 3 segments of Cape Coral that we're talking about. Southwest, little bit similar situation, but there are a few older homes in there. There's a few storm damage properties in there, so that pulls that median price down to $855,000. There's also more homes in the Southwest that are kind of further inland. So those further inland homes where it takes sometimes, in many cases, 2 hours to get out to open water through the canal systems, those homes are a little bit cheaper, obviously, because the Gulf access is not as good. And so there's a couple different reasons why that number is a little bit lower than the Northwest. I still am of the opinion that the Northwest, in terms of Gulf access homes, is the best place you can put your money right now. If you've seen some of my previous videos on the things that are coming into the Northwest that we're really excited about, like the Seven Islands project and things like Coral Grove, I really think the Northwest is going to be transformed over the course of the next few years, and we're really going to look like that really top-notch area of the Southwest over there around that Sands area, Cape Coral Parkway, as these things get finished, because we've got some really nice homes up here in the Northwest, and you can still get a really decent newer property up here for less than $1 million. So that's pretty important these days. But going back to these different segments of Cape Coral, the Southeast obviously was the lowest, $649,000. That was the median price for Gulf access homes there. And mostly the reason for that is the homes over there are traditionally much older. They're the oldest homes in the entire city of Cape Coral. That was the first area that was developed back there in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so more of those homes that sold in the last 4 months were older properties, 1970s on average, maybe 80s. And that's also where the yacht club section is. And if you're familiar with that area, that was really the hardest hit by the hurricane a year and a half ago. Most of the flooding that we saw were the older homes in that yacht club area. So we still have an occasional storm damage property that we're seeing selling, and so that's moving the median price down. But $649,000 is the median for the Southeast. Again, Southwest was $855,000 and the Northwest was $885,000. But again, that's mostly due to the ages of the home in those different segments. All right, let's talk about condos. So I always do condos. I lump everything together because there's not as many condo sales. So we're talking on water, off water, townhomes, high rises, mid rises, low rises, anything that you can consider a condo or a townhome is basically what I'm covering under this property category. And boy, we really needed some good news, and we really got it as far as condos go in the month of March. If you take a look at this 2-year graph, this is the number of sales of condos per month. And we had really a 2-year low. It's really more than that. If I took this graph out, we're probably about 10-year low back in January of this year in terms of the number of sales. Back in January, we had 27 condos sold. So we moved up a little bit in February with 41, and then we had a great big jump with 70 total condo sales in Cape Coral in the month of March. So it's great to see. This is still a softer market. I think there's reasons for that. I've gone into them in other videos, but basically has a lot to do with the HOA fees coming up, and a lot of that has to do with insurance rates coming up. So a lot of the HOAs around here, in fact, the majority of them in Cape Coral, increased their HOA, their monthly dues. Some of them are monthly, some of them are quarterly, but they've gone up just with these rising costs. And of course, we had the condo collapse down there in Surfside, Florida. I think that was 3 years ago, and they changed the laws. So some of these properties that are over 3 stories are having to deal with some engineering surveys that they have to get done every 10 years, and of course that's causing some of those HOA fees to go up as well. But it's nice to see that we're up to 70. We're still not where we were this time last year. This time last year we sold 75 condos in March of 03, but 70 is much better than we've been doing the last few months, and so it's good to see that big number come in. Let's look at the median price. I'm going to show you this 3-year graph just to show you kind of the precipitous incline that we saw, and then the gradual softening that we've seen here recently. But at least in the month of March for this year, 2024, median price hit $255,000. Again, we're basically, when you take out the month immediately following the hurricane, that's basically as low as we've been since the end of January, the end of 2021. So prices are noticeably going down in the condo market right now. $255,000 is a 13.6% reduction in median price from the high point, which was about this time last year, March of 2023. Believe it or not, and I know I've said this before in previous videos, but condos peaked out in the spring of 2023. For whatever reason, I think there was more folks coming in buying some higher end condos due to the hurricane. They felt that was a little bit of a safer option for themselves right after the hurricane. But for whatever reason, the median prices peaked out over there in March of 2023 at $295,000. So again, we're 13.6% down in pricing from this time last year. Going back to the beginning of 2021, we were at $209,500. So got up almost a full $90,000 from 2021 to 2023, and now we're just back down a little bit at $255,000. So again, it's been a trend that we're seeing these condo prices start to soften a little bit, and the inventory on the market is one of the main reasons for that. Again, we have fewer buyers in the market right now due to these higher HOA fees, and so it just makes sense that we're seeing the prices soften a little bit. We'll talk about that inventory here coming up in a little bit, but again, condos 70 sales and median price $255,000. All right, so let's get into vacant lot sales. So when I say vacant lots, I'm talking about a single family home lot, an average home lot that you can build a single family home on here in Cape Coral. And I wanted to show you this 10-year graph because I really think it perfectly illustrates that sort of craziness that we had there for a couple of years. But at least in terms of this past month in March, we had a total of 177 sales. That was actually down from February. We had 216 in February, which is on the high side when you look at the course of the last 12 months. But 177 this past month. That's actually also up from January of this year, and where we only had 168. But when you look at this 10-year graph, I mean, boy, that really spiked up there from really starting in the pandemic, right after March of 2020. And it really exploded. We had the high point was January of 2021, where we had 971 sales of vacant lots in the city of Cape Coral. So we are down considerably from that. But taken into the broader context of this 10-year graph, it looks like we're back to normal with these lot sales. We're looking a lot like we did in 2014, 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20 before March. And so 177 is basically what I would consider to be normal right now. Of those, the majority obviously were non-Gulf access lots. 155 were either on a freshwater canal or mostly not on a body of water at all. Only 22 were Gulf access, and actually that's a fairly increased amount from the previous month, 22. But if you look across the board at what the median price is for all lots, and again, I'm including everything, so Gulf access and non-Gulf access, we're at $53,000, and that's actually the highest that it's been since November of 2022. But again, we had a few more Gulf access sales. Those are going to be on the higher side, and so I think those kind of pulled the numbers up a little bit. We've overall sort of floated around that $50,000 mark really since spring of 2022. If you look at the non-Gulf access vacant lots, the median price for those is $47,000. That's what it was in the month of March. Gulf access, actually, there's a fewer number of Gulf access sales, so it's hard to derive any meaningful trend from this number. But we actually hit a all-time high in terms of median Gulf access home vacant lot sale prices. Sorry. $314,500 was the median price for Gulf access lot sales in the month of March, and that's an all-time high. But again, when we're only talking about 10 or 20 average sales per month, that can kind of go up and down. So maybe a few of those lots, maybe a few more of those lots had seawalls on them. Maybe a few more were in really nice spots in the southwest, or really quick access areas of the southeast or something, and that would drag that median price up. But again, $314,500. That was the highest we'd ever seen for Gulf access lots, and lot sales are doing pretty good right now. We're still seeing a pretty normal number of lot sales, so it's good to see that. The home builders are buying lots. They're still building homes, not nearly as much as they used to, but we're still seeing lot sales in healthy margins. So good to see for vacant lots. All right, so let's get into the absolute most important part of the Cape Coral real estate market right now, and that's the active inventory. And when I'm talking about active inventory, I'm just talking about the number of properties that are active and trying to be sold in any given month. And if we look at this 3-year graph, this is total across the board for all residential properties. So this includes golf access, single family condos, all different types of residential properties. And I mean, this graph kind of tells the tale. We had basically we bottomed out in the end of 2021, and we've been rising ever since then. And we took a little bit of a dip from February to March, but March we have a total of 4,200 of these properties on the market in the month of March. That's just slightly down. We had 4,265 in February, but I think this is, like a couple months that we saw before that, it's sort of a break in a larger trend of an upward trajectory. But if we look at this over the last 12 months, March of 2023, we had 2,720 properties on the market. So we're up a full 55% in just 12 months. And we're certainly up well over double what we were in at the low point at the end of 2021. So, we haven't really seen the pricing go down as much as you would expect with looking at a graph like this. Normally when your supply goes up, your pricing has to go down to try to make up that difference in supply versus demand, but we haven't really seen that yet. And I think we're reaching a breaking point with that tension, and we're going to have to start seeing some softening on pricing across the board. So let's talk a little bit about that. I want to break these numbers down again by property category, and I'll tell you what the months of inventory are. But let's go ahead and start with non-golf access single family home inventory. So again, single family homes that are not on a golf access canal or the river or something like that. All right, so let's take a look at these non-golf access single family homes. So this makes up the absolute majority of the Cape Coral real estate market. And our graph obviously looks pretty similar to the broader market in general, but let's take a look at this. We had 2,811 properties on the market in the month of March. Off-water single family home properties were down slightly, only about 29 from February, where we had 2,840. But this time last year, we had 1,974 of these properties on the market. So we're up 43%. And believe it or not, that's sort of the best case scenario. This category of property is affected the least by the rising inventory that we're seeing in the broader market. 43% is on the low side. And I don't think it's a good I don't think it's a good sign when 43% increase in 12 months is the low side of the market. But again, if you look back, going back 3 years, back to 2021, we're almost double where we were in 2021. We're up about 98.5% from March in 2020, March of 2021. And again, this category is doing better than all the others. So I still believe that we're going to see some pricing on that. But let's look pricing softening on that. But let's look at the months of inventory. When I talk about months of inventory, it's basically just an indication. It's a correlation between the rate at which properties are selling versus the number of properties that are on the market. So for instance, if I'm talking in a given community, there are 10 active properties for sale in the community, and we are selling 2 of those properties every month. That would give me 5 months of inventory out there. In other words, if no other properties came on the market, it would take me 5 months at the rate of 2 per month to get through all 10 of those properties. So I think it's a good indication of that tension between supply and demand, and we've got a little bit, because the number of properties that sold in the month of March was quite a bit more than February and January respective. This 12-month graph kind of shows us that we've returned a little bit more to the overall rising trend, even though we had a couple of outlying months, high months there. We're back in reasonably good territory. So we're at 7 months of inventory right now. That's down from 9 in the month of February and 12 in the month of January. We didn't sell very many properties at all in January, so it's no surprise that was a high month. But again, if you're looking back 12 months ago, we only had 5 months of inventory back in 2023. So we are going in the wrong direction for home sellers right now. It's taking longer to sell these properties. There are more of them on the market, and even though we haven't really seen a big significant downward trajectory in pricing, the tension that's there has to break somehow. So either we're going to have a ton of these properties come off the market, or we're going to have to be starting to sell some of these properties that are on the market. And the only way you can do that right now is to lower prices. So inevitably, I think as we're going into the summer, we're going to start to see these prices kind of soften a little bit. And it remains to be seen how long that trend will continue. Interest rates have a lot to do with it, especially in this category. A lot of the home buyers that are buying these off-water single-family homes are doing so with mortgages. And obviously at 7+%, somebody getting a mortgage does not have the purchasing power to buy at these high purchase prices as they did, back when rates were 2-3%. Obviously, that's a stark difference. So until those interest rates start to come back down, I think a lot of those buyers will continue to sit on the sidelines, and that demand will kind of wane, and we'll inevitably see some softening on pricing. So if you're in the market for something like this, probably within the next 6 or so months is probably your window of opportunity. And I'll get into that in a little bit when I talk about my advice for some buyers in this Cape Coral real estate market here in a second. But we'll just keep an eye on this to see. I fully expect this inventory trend to continue to increase, and the months of inventory will probably tick up as well. But let's get over to the next category of property. Let's talk about Gulf access single family homes. All right, Gulf access single family homes. I'll just throw up this 3-year graph. It looks pretty similar to the other two, but we had 882 Gulf access single family homes that were for sale in the month of March. That's down slightly from February, where we had 897. That was an all-time high, 897. But this time last year, 583 properties is what was for sale in the month of March 2023. So we're up over half. We're up 52% from this time last year, and we're over double from March of 2021. Or excuse me, the low point at the end of 2021. We're just slightly under double of what we were in March 2021. We had 438 homes for sale in March of 2021. That's the first number on this graph. But that inventory level went down as we got into the later months of 2021, and now since that low point, we're certainly over double at this point. So this property category is like all the others. We're going to have to see some kind of either mass number of properties be taken off the market and not being sold at all, or we're going to have to see more properties sell. Otherwise, we're going to have to see some pricing come down. But let's look at the months of inventory on here. Similar situation to the off-water or the non-Gulf access single-family homes. We had 9 months of Gulf access inventory, so our months of inventory is greater for this property type. We're just not selling as many Gulf access properties at the same rate rather as the off-water or the non-Gulf access single-family homes. But we are down at 9 months. We're down from February, which we had 12, and then January 14. So there was a big spike in there because we didn't sell a lot of properties going back December, January, February. December actually was up at 17%. But this time last year, we were only at 6 months of inventory. So we were up by about 35 or so percent, 33% from this time last year. So again, we're heading in the wrong direction. If you want to see prices stabilize, I think we're going to be seeing pricing going into the negative inventory as we get into the summer months, especially once the buying activity from this higher winter and spring season gives way to the slower season of summer. But let's go ahead and take a look at condos, because again, condos are getting beat up right now. All right, so condos, we've talked about the reason that condos are a tough sell these days, but we've got 503 condos on the market in the month of March. Again, that's down slightly from 525 in February, but again, I think it's just a slower blip on the larger trend of the increasing inventory for condos, just like everything else. We're up 52% from where we were last year, last March. we had 331 condos on the market. Now we've got 503, so that's a 52% increase. But where the biggest difference that we're seeing versus some of these other property categories is where we were from 2 years ago. In the low point of 2021, we almost got down to only 100 condos on the market. And in March of 2022, so 2 years ago, we only had 198 condos on the market. So we are up a full 154% from March of 2021, and even more than that from the low point that we've ever seen. And again, 2021, coming out of the pandemic, you could make the case that our inventory was artificially low. But still, when you're looking at this graph, even if you just take from 2022 onward, we're heading in the wrong directions for pricing to stabilize or even increase for condos. And I think this property category is a little more affected by people that need to sell in the market. So whereas, some of these other property categories, especially golf access homes, maybe people are more likely to own that, entirely with cash, and they're not willing to reduce the price enough to get their property sold, so I'll just take it off the market. Condos, because we've had these HOA fees go up so much over the course of the last 6 months, especially given the fact that condos are more likely to be owned by retirees on fixed income or something like that. Those higher HOA fees are causing affordability issues, and they're putting more of these condo sellers in a position where they need to sell. And that's not a good position to be in when the inventory is increasing like this, because they're going to inevitably have to start reducing prices. I know the condo listings that I've had have been extraordinarily difficult to sell. We've had to do some price reductions. We've had to get creative with some things to get these condos sold. And even though we had a good month in March comparatively for condos, we sold 70, and that was up from 30 and 40, I think, in January and February. Condos are increasingly becoming more and more difficult to sell, and as we get into the summer months, I fully expect to see this continuing trend of prices reducing. We've already seen that really from the high point last year. Remember, condos peaked out, at least price-wise, in 2023 versus single-family homes that peaked out in 2022. So really a lot of this reduction has been in the last 12 months. So we'll continue to watch this closely, but let's look at these months of inventory. This 12-month chart looks an awful lot like these other two, but again, we had a pretty good month in terms of the number of sale of condos in the month of March. So that put us down to only 7 months of active inventory, and that's down from 13 months in February, and 18 months was the all-time high, well, at least the 10-year high for condos, 18 months of inventory in January, just because we didn't sell very many, quite frankly, at all. But if you look at the broader implications of this, again, our pricing peaked out. I think the demand was highest for these condos about this time last year. And in March of 2023, we only had 4 months of inventory. We were selling a lot more condos, and we had a lot fewer condos on the market. So we've almost doubled, not quite doubled, the months of inventory that we actually have on the market right now for condos. So we're going to really have to pay attention to condos. If you're a condo seller, you really probably need to get out ahead of this, and you need to really strongly think about getting your pricing right if you're not getting any activity on it. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second with my advice to sellers in it. But condos are probably the most affected right now by this rising rates of inventory. So let's get into my advice for buyers and my advice for sellers in this Cape Coral real estate market. All right, so if you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market, what is my advice to you? What should you be thinking about, and what should you be targeting? Well, I don't know if I've said this flat out or not in the previous monthly market reports that I've done, but it's pretty much official at this point that this is a buyer's market. With the rising level of inventories out there, buyers have certainly their pick of the litter, so to speak. You can go out there and really shop different properties. Properties are not selling nearly as quickly as they were in the last 3 or 4 years, and you've got more options out there, and you can kind of pit sellers against one another to get you a little bit better terms and better prices. So if you're a buyer in this Cape Coral real estate market, particularly in the next 6 months, I think you have a really good window of opportunity right now heading into the summer, because there are still a ton of buyers. There's still a ton of pent-up demand for this area right here, but they're all sitting on the sidelines kind of waiting to see what happens with things like the interest rates and insurance, and of course we're in an election year, and that always causes some economic uncertainty. And so I think those factors are all playing into the folks that are on the sidelines. I'm hearing anecdotally just a lot of folks that are kind of in a wait and see pattern that would otherwise be buyers right now. So I think as long as we get some interest rates reduced here later this year and into next year, I think that buying demand will come back. But at least in the short term right now, we're not in a good outlook for pricing. And so I think the prices are going to soften a little bit, and you're going to have this window of opportunity to get in there and get something at a really attractive price and terms. So if you are a buyer right now and you don't have a realtor, first of all, get a hold of me, and we can talk about the types of properties that you're targeting and put a purchasing plan together for you. I'll make a buyer profile for you, and we'll try to find the right property type and really go in there and negotiate hard for you. We'll find the right one, because again, there's a ton of them on the market right now, and we'll find the right one, and we'll make sure we negotiate the best possible price and deal for you. But I think this opportunity is there. It's probably a limited time. Again, hopefully the interest rates do come back down later this year. But if you're paying attention to the financial news, there's talk that maybe we only get one rate cut this entire year. And in some cases they're talking about we won't have any rate cuts this year. And so if that happens, we're going to be in an extended period of time where the prices should stay a little bit soft. It'll be more of a buyer's market. But again, kudos to you if you're a buyer in this real estate market, because you're in the driver's seat for the first time in a long time, certainly in the last 4 or 5 years. So take advantage of this window of opportunity while interest rates are still high and the demand is relatively low and the supply is really high, and really go out there and shop and negotiate yourself a really good deal. All right, so if you're a seller in the Cape Coral real estate market, what do you need to be paying attention to? What do you need to be thinking about right now? Well, frankly, it's not a great time to be a seller in the Cape Coral real estate market. You've got, in many cases, over 50% more properties on the market, depending on what property category you've got, than you did this time last year. So there's a lot more competition out there. In many cases, you're having to compete with brand new construction properties and some of these incentives that these builders are offering. It makes it very difficult as someone who's reselling their property in today's market. So you really need to be paying attention to what else is out there, what the prices are doing for these other listings, and you need to make sure that your price is very competitive, number one, and that you're thinking outside the box and making either improvements to your property to try to compete with these other ones, or maybe you're offering some special financing incentives, or you're offering some type of closing cost incentive, something to get creative to set you apart from the larger field of other properties that are out there. Because again, you got to be a little bit more cutthroat right now with almost twice as many properties on the market as this time a couple of years ago. So you need to just be paying close attention to what the numbers are doing. And my clients, I'm advising them, the ones that I have their properties listed, is, hey, we need to be, if we're not getting activity on where our prices are at, we really need to get out in front of this downward trend. Because if we kind of follow the market down, by the time you get the property sold, you're going to have sold it for a lot less money than you would have otherwise done if you got out in front of the downward trend to begin with. So 6 months from now, your property is going to be worth a fair amount less than it is right now. So you need to make sure that you're pricing your property appropriately, and you're doing whatever you can to set yourself apart from the other massive amount of inventory, frankly, that's out there right now. All right, so bottom line, what is the 10,000-foot view of the Cape Coral real estate market? Well, long-term, we're going to be just fine. That's the great news. Long-term, people are still going to want to come here. They're still going to want to be in the sunshine. We're hopefully getting things figured out with some of these insurance issues. I know if you've read the news recently, we lost our FEMA subsidies, 25% FEMA, up to 25% FEMA subsidies for the FEMA-backed flood insurance policies right now in Cape Coral. And I've got a lot of opinions on that. I really, from everything that I've heard so far, I don't really think, I'm not blaming our local officials. I think I'm in disagreement with local officials quite often. Sometimes I agree with what they do, but I don't think that they really screwed up here. I think FEMA's at fault here, and hopefully as they get these meetings going forward, they'll be able to figure things out and get us these subsidies back, because the folks that are on those NFIP programs, the last thing they need is an up to 25% increase in those flood policies. And that's another reason why, especially if you're looking for a property now, you need to have somebody like me go in there and talk to some of my insurance contacts in there to see if we can find a private flood policy for you if you do need flood insurance, because increasingly we're seeing some of these private insurers come in and really beat out those NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, flood policies out by quite a bit these days. So it's good to see more competition coming in that segment of the market. But by and large, we're going to get our insurance figured out here. There'll be some things that happen to hopefully alleviate that, or at least prevent future increases on the flood and homeowners insurance here. And again, long term, I think we're going to be just fine. The interest rates will come back down, the demand will come back, and our pricing will start to, flatten out and go back up eventually. But at least in the short term, we're going to be in a pretty soft market. It's going to be an opportunity for buyers right now. If you're a seller, you need to get aggressive. You need to get real aggressive and get out in front of the downward trend in pricing. Otherwise, you really need to pull your home off the market. If you can afford to wait for 2 years, 3 years, I think that's probably the better case for you, because I don't see any kind of bubble bursting or anything like that. We're not in a bubble. We have too many end users here in the market. There's too many folks with too much cash in this market for this to be a bubble. So I don't anticipate this gigantic deluge of inventory coming on the market with a bunch of sellers that need to sell, like we saw with the bank foreclosures back after the 2008 financial crisis. So long term, we're going to be just fine. We're going to have a short period of time here, maybe 12, 18 months, maybe as much as 24 months, where we're going to have softening prices depending on what the Fed does and when they start to reduce those rates. Hopefully we get more than one rate cut this year. They were talking about 3 or 4, and now they're talking about 1, and now they're talking about maybe not at all. So hopefully as we get into the third and fourth quarter of this year, things are looking a little bit better inflation-wise and job market-wise, and they can have a little bit of political pressure to kind of get those rates back down. And so we can see some of our buyers come back into the market with those lower interest rates. But again, there's going to be a time period here where buyers are going to be in charge, and that's just the cyclical nature of real estate in general. It's the cyclical nature of any kind of economic market system. So we're no exception to the rules. We had a lot of good years here for sellers. They were really in charge for several years in a row, and now it's the buyer's turn to be in charge for a little bit. So whether you are a buyer or a seller in this Cape Coral real estate market, I hope you will reach out to me. I hope this video was somewhat informative to you. And if you got anything out of this, please reach over and hit that like button. And almost 85% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. And if you got anything out of this, reach over and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out. You'll stay up on getting these videos delivered to you whenever they come out. So if you got anything out of it whatsoever, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. And like I said, if you're in the need for a real estate broker here anywhere in Southwest Florida, not just Cape Coral, I service all the areas of Fort Myers, Punta Gorda, Cape Coral, you can get down to Naples, Bonita Springs, places like that as well. So I really hope you'll reach out to me. My contact information is on the screen right now. It's also down in the description. And remember, there's a link down there where you can schedule a future Zoom meeting if you're not in town right now and you just want to do a one-on-one face-to-face over Zoom. Please make use of that by all means, but you can call, text, or email me otherwise, and I'll be happy to hear about your goals and what I can do for you, let you know a little bit about what's going on in that specific segment of the market, whether you're buying a property or selling one in a specific segment of the market. And yeah, I just really look forward, hope to get to meet you sometime. And again, make use of that contact information down there. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll have another informational video out here just in a few days. So make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one real soon. Thanks.